Cheers, y'all.
Getting better every time.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast and video extravaganza known worldwide as the internationally famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Welcome to the show number 244.
Ooh, halfway to 300.
Yeah, we are all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars, and we welcome you to our program, which is brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Great shirts for cigar lovers on the web. You can check them out and find one that fits you at MyCigarShirts.com. It's also great for gifts. I know a lot of people in my realm and circle seem to have birthdays coming up. And for those who are cigar fans, it's easy. You can order it, get it, and have it for them. And it's one of those things where you don't have to spend a lot of money, but you get something that makes an impression. You know what I mean?
Right. And if you're wondering when my birthday is, it's already passed. But if you want to give me a birthday present in exile, then it's just fine.
Well, I did take care of you for your birthday, did I not?
You did, absolutely.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
I was talking to the audience.
Because I got you.
I mean, you're the only one here I got to look at, really.
I understand. Well, there's Adam.
Yeah, but he's. I see a screen, and then the only part of his face. There we go.
I have a view of Adam, and then I can see the switcher screen behind him, which has the four different video views. There's one of me, there's one of you, there's one of you and me, and then there's one of the real star of the show, Mr. Twirlygig.
Mr. Twirlygig.
Yeah, who makes his return because it's you and me in the studio today. Now, our legal expert and buddy, Trey Boring, was actually originally scheduled to be with us. That had to be moved. He's going to be on at a later time, which I'm a little bit bummed about because I really wanted his take on what's going on with the cigar legislation.
Yeah, I was looking forward to the
how
news.
badly we are screwed if that's the case. And,
there's that.
So anyway, we'll get him to update us soon. And just in absence of him being here, let me encourage you guys to do two things that we would be talking about if Trey were here. The first is Cigars for Warriors. If you can get involved in helping those guys out, they send cigars to our active duty military men and women who are stationed abroad and may not be in a position where they can just run down to the corner store and buy some. So it's something people really thank the Cigars for Warriors people for in a big way. It makes a huge difference when those boxes arrive. And there's a number of different cigar shops around the country where you can, drop something in, make a donation, or you can find them on the web.
A lot
Cigars
of cigar
for
shops
Warriors.
have that.
Yes.
Have that bin where you can buy some cigars and put them in there.
And put one in there, yeah. Put one in there, put a pack in there, whatever, however you feel.
Even if you're just buying a box and the cigar shop supports that, you can take a cigar or two out of the box.
Yeah, toss it in the receptacle.
It's like giving them to a friend.
To do. And then the other, of course, is Cigar Rights of America, which is the organization that fights for people like you and me. The organizations that are working really hard to try and impose ridiculous taxes on our cigars and put make it to where smaller cigar shops may even have to go out of business. Those people have lobbyists, highly paid lobbyists in Washington, D.C., that are lobbying the senators and the congressmen for their portion of the cause. Cigar Rights of America is one of the only organizations, and they are organized, that gets out there and represents the wishes of people who enjoy smoking cigars, like you and me, and like hopefully everybody listening to this program. So,
well, and the big problem is, I love smoking cigars. You love smoking cigars, but there's a whole bunch of people out there who feel like anything smoking is all the same.
Right. That's the same as cigarettes, e-cigarettes, or whatever.
Anything else like that, and cigar smoking is very different. And then on top of that, they're like, well, they're smokers. Who cares?
Right. Exactly.
Like, they're all just the same thing.
It's one of the last great prejudices that you can have in society today.
That's pretty amazing.
Is against smokers.
Yeah.
Because if you, if you are of a particular ethnicity or a particular body type or a particular way that you identify sexually, we're to a point in our culture that it is really taboo to be, judgmental about that. And rightly so. But people have to find something to be judgmental about, so they're going after smokers. Anyway, those of us who are smokers of cigars, it's a completely different thing. also than people who are regular cigarette smokers or whatever. So anyway, support Cigar Rights of America because they support you. And that's what we would be saying if Trey were here, and we'll say it even though he's not with us this week.
Yes.
So without Trey coming in, Ian, I had to throw a show together. And I think you're going to like what I came up with.
What'd you come up with this week?
Today, we will have our very first ever Smokin' and Toastin' Stout blind taste test.
Oh, now that sounds fun.
Yeah, this sounds like it's right up your alley.
I like stouts.
Now, the thing about stouts, though, is because they are so often very large, and by large I mean high ABV, there's no way I could traipse in here with 16 different stouts and have a sample of them all and make it home. So we're going to do 6. We'll do 3 segments with 2 apiece.
6 is good.
We'll A/B them. It'll give us a chance to really do a nice A/B comparison, which I thought would work well for this particular
But there's
genre.
6 of them, so that's an A, B, C, D, E, F comparison.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we'll A/B them in each segment, and then you'll pick your 3 favorites out of the whole thing, which may or may not be your number 1 from each of the segments, depending on.
I like the idea. If we save a little bit of each one, then we can A/B each segment, and then we can A/B/C the 3 that we like the best.
Oh, see, there you go. That will probably work.
Innovating,
because some of these stouts are in big bombers. We're gonna have a lot of beer left over today, so I hope you're thirsty. I already told the guys out in the office, hey, we're doing a stout taste test. There's gonna be a lot of stout left over.
Yeah, there's gonna be some tasters.
In addition to that, I picked up a very interesting bottle about 2 weeks ago at my friendly neighborhood Spec store. It is a bottle of Bacardi Reserva rum that is a Spec Select barrel bottle. There's not a lot of information on it, but you can clearly see the Bacardi logo there, and you can see where it says Specs. And this is, and more, liquor retailers are doing this, where where their spirits people will go, they'll sample different casks, different barrels, and they'll choose one that will be available. The bottles from that will be available exclusively at their store.
Let's take a minute and explain what that barrel pick is,
okay,
even beyond that. Because a barrel pick is when you get a very specific barrel and you get a very specific flavor profile. And what happens is, the reason this is a little more special is because, for instance, Bacardi making this particular blend, and I say blend is in-house blending. We're not talking about
Of course, yeah.
But Bacardi making this particular blend, what they do at the distillery is they have a flavor profile that they need to match, and they need to take all of their barrels and blend them to a point where that matches.
So that if you buy
profile.
a Bacardi 18-year-old, let's say,
yeah,
it's going to taste like the last Bacardi 18-year-old that
so
you
they
tried.
want to level that, and it's always going to be good like that. But when you do a barrel pick for a store, for an organization or something like that, you're going and selecting one barrel that's going to taste different from the other ones, and it's not going to be blended, and you get to try that one. And guess what? When that barrel's gone, it's gone.
Right.
You don't get it again.
And you know who does this a lot is our very good friend Chris Hart.
Yes.
Who has done it with not only with bourbons, but has done it with rums. And he's, for a guy that is known as a whiskey expert, which he is in fact known as,
he's doing a lot of rums and Armagnacs.
He's got really good taste in rum. In fact, the last time he was on the show, he brought in a bottle of rum that they'd done a cask select with Plantation, and that rum was amazing. Yeah. It was good. So high hopes for the Specs barrel pick and Bacardi. Bacardi is probably most well known for their sort of everyday rums, which are good for mixers and what have you. But if you've had some of the more aged Bacardi rums,
they get special real quick.
I remember there was one at the last whiskey sniff that we did at B&B Butchers. And I kept going back to the Bacardi booth because I was like, okay, that rum that you have back there, oh my gosh, so it was really terrific. So anyway, looking forward to checking that out. Speaking of Chris Hart, by the way, scheduled to join us on the 12th of August.
Nice.
To be here on the show. He of course has details on this year's Whiskey Social.
Yeah, that's going to be a good
that's
time.
going to be coming up, and he will be here to tell us all about that. And I'm sure, knowing Chris, he's one of those guests that never arrives empty-handed. I'm sure
never.
We'll plan out a show, what we're going to taste and all that, and then he'll show up with a box of liquor.
And the Whiskey Sniff is on
the
November,
Whiskey Social.
Or Whiskey Social.
Yes.
Sorry, not Whiskey Sniff. The Whiskey Social is on November 6th, right?
I believe that's correct.
So
I'll have to
I want to
go
give shout out to my brew club, CCSD, real quick, because we had scheduled our November Fest. We do that every year.
Yeah. Because everybody does Oktoberfest.
Right.
You guys
so we
do
just
November
move it to November.
I love that.
We have a little bit better turnout.
That way, you've not only got the sort of fall Oktoberfest beers, but by then you've got the Christmas ales and the stuff
and we're doing
coming
a lot
from the end of the year.
Well, this is all our own brews. This is all our own brews that we're doing. So this is a great festival. But one of the cool things that they did is I mentioned that the Whiskey Social is actually scheduled the same day we were scheduling our Novemberfest.
Right.
And the club all voted, and we moved it by a week.
Oh, that's
so
great.
That not only could the club members go to the Whiskey Social, but we could also I could be there for the festival. So that's really fun. Thanks,
awesome.
guys.
Well, love that. So Chris will be here in a couple of weeks to tell us more about that, but it is something, and Ian and I have said this on the show before, I'll say it again, of all of the different spirit events we've ever been to, this one is the best.
It's amazing.
And it's not we have nothing to do with it. So that's not any kind of, we get nothing for saying that except
no sponsorship here.
Maybe a little whiskey.
No paid promotions.
Yeah, that's right. But I do really believe it to be the best. So I encourage you to go if you are interested. And by the way, it's primarily a whiskey event, bourbons and whiskeys and scotches, but there will be usually some rums. There will usually be some tequila. And there's always a really nice smoking area set up outside. And last year, last time Oliva was there, providing some great cigars that you can smoke. So it's definitely worth your while.
Just a quick thing. We got a few people watching. Want to say hi to Courtney, hi to Howard, hi to Alan. Howard, you need to get in touch with us. We need to smoke cigars.
Yes, absolutely, and we need to have you on the show.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's plan that, Howard. You're a guest that has been gone from our airwaves here
too long. It's been a few years.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to dig up that number.
Yeah,
send us your number.
So let's do that. So speaking of smoking cigars, Ian, did you have a chance to smoke anything interesting this week?
I did. I went and wandered around the humidor at Casa this morning, and
I
came
love
up
their
with
humidor.
Yeah, it's nice because there is room to wander in that humidor. It's a big humidor.
You can spend a bit of time in there, as a matter of fact.
So I wandered around, was just looking around to see if I had something I haven't had. I was looking for something kind of old school, and I found my father. And I looked up on my list of cigars that I've tried because I have to do a search on it to see if I've
see if you've tried it for the show before.
I haven't reviewed except one. Like I've reviewed one My Father cigar.
You know what I find even more amazing than that is that my father has now been around long enough that you refer to them as old school.
Yeah.
Because they
remember when they were new. Yeah,
right. They are a newer brand, but not brand new. They've actually been around for a while.
Right. Well, they also have kind of a great old school vibe.
Well, they sure do.
To the flavor of the cigars and the presentation and everything. So they kind of fall into that category. But they've been around so long, and I'm such a fan of generally everything they do, and they're always a great price point too, which is important. So you can pick up any My Father cigar and be pretty happy. I picked up the La Promesa. So
I'm gonna spoil your review. That's a great cigar. Okay,
that's
right.
enough. How
Thank
about
you.
your cigar?
Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Enough said. Cigar good. So this was the Corona Gorda. It's a 5.5 by 48 with a Ecuador Habano Oscuro wrapper. So you know
nice
it's going to be
dark.
spicy right away.
Yep.
Like
nice and dark.
Like Nicaragua binder, Nicaragua filler. So you know it's going to be spicy. Okay, and it's My Father. So
you're expecting some pepper.
Yeah, I expect it. The appearance, ruddy dark brown, 2 bands plus a little satin footer. Oily, semi-rustic overall, firm overall. The pre-light sniff on this, I got earth, barnyard, some classic tobacco, and hints of cocoa.
Nice.
On the outside of the cigar. The pre-light draw, I used a clip. It had an effortless draw to it. Coffee and sweet mocha mixed with rich earth and leather is what I got right on the nose. The initial light of this, I got this spicy blast of pepper. I mean, it was exactly what you expect when you have that Nicaraguan cigar, and it's a spicy blast of pepper, and a very steak-like meaty steak, meaty.
I know what you mean by that. Yes,
and really big smoke. Like the smoke is instantaneous and big and fluffy right there. I'll comment on that in a minute too. The first third of this spicy sweet, it has kind of a pastry oven kind of sweetness going on too there. I don't know if I'd say bready, but maybe pastry, maybe kind of sweet pastries thing.
Nice.
Cocoa, earth, fermented hay. Medium full profile almost immediately. Retrohale, slightly salty with a touch of red pepper. Big fluffy smoke, great for blowing smoke rings. I can't help it when I get smoky cigars like that. And I'm not great at it, but
I've just never learned to do it. I've tried. I'm terrible at it.
I'm not good at it.
I can't
but
even
I'm
try.
enthusiastic.
I can't try when anyone's around because it's embarrassing.
Let's see. Solid ash, good burn on this. I wouldn't say it was razor tight, but it never got more than just a
little bit,
a couple millimeters off on either side, and I never tended it. The second third of this, some sweetness ramps up here, or the spicy backs off. I wasn't really sure which was happening, but either way, it was a little less spicy there, or more sweet covering some of the spice. More cocoa and earth, and a cedar woodiness kind of takes over. Sweet pastry still lurks in the background. I love using the word lurk because it's just fun to say.
Yeah.
Retrohale is leather, earth, and a little red pepper. Solid ash, good burn. The last third of the cigar, cedar and pepper take the stage here, supported by underlying sweetness and bitter salt. And I say bitter salt, but not in a bad way, right. like what has kind of a bitter saltiness to it. Some of the like sourdough breads or rye breads have kind of that,
yeah,
that kind of thing. There's some other foods that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head like that. Leather and charred toast threads throughout. Retrohale is toasty, earthy, and pepper. Solid ash, good burn. This is a great cigar. It's fantastic. It's $8.25.
Nice.
So it's not super cheap, but it's not real pricey.
But it's not a super
and
price
it gets
premium.
a solid 5. I mean, they're so good. And bang for the buck, it's a great cigar. So you get exactly what you're paying for $8.25. You're going to have a hard time finding something that matches its price that well.
Yeah. That's My Father is tough to beat, and you can pay a lot more for a My Father cigar, but there's an example of one that's pretty affordable and delivers.
Yeah, and some of them are as low as what, $6, $6.50.
I think so. Yeah, you can find a few of them.
You can pay more.
So, but quality and consistency, those guys have got it going on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we got to get them on the show. We were working on that for a while, and I think actually even had it scheduled at one point, and then something happened. I don't know. We'll work on that.
We're going to blame it. Thanks, COVID.
Yeah, thanks, COVID. I've noticed, by the way, you're using the word lurk. I've noticed that our 3 favorite words here on the show all sound very similar: lurk, funk, and dank. They all have a sort of a similar sound to them, and they all end in K. Right. I don't know what that means, but in any case, I smoked something pretty interesting this week as well. I'm always amazed, and Casa de Monte Cristo, which is where I bought the cigar, when you go in, because they're a part of the Monte Cristo family, which puts them in that, General Cigar or Altadas. I always get them confused. But you're talking about the company that makes, Macanudo, Hoya de Monterey, Romeo and Julieta, and H. Upman. These are all in the same families, and so they always have a really impressive stock of all those brands because they've got access to even some of the more limited edition and unusual type of things that come out from those companies. And I'm always amazed at both Hoya de Monterey and Romeo and Julieta at how many different, and Monte Cristo as well, how many different offerings there are from them. And I was going through the Romeo and Julietas and found one that I'd never tried. So I picked up a Romeo and Julieta Eternal.
I actually reviewed that a few months back. Yeah.
It's a Toro size, 6x54, I believe. Yeah, 6x54. Very well rolled, a few visible veins, and a nice, smooth, rounded cap. The Eternal is a limited release from Romeo and Julieta. It was designed to commemorate 145 years of making Romeo and Julieta cigars. Not 45, Ian. 145.
I know, that's crazy.
That's halfway to 200. You know,
that's almost as many years as what was it, Toscano has been.
Right, I know. It's amazing. So the 145th year was actually last year, but thanks COVID, things got delayed a little bit. It didn't come out till January of this year. The blend and the tobacco on this is a collaboration between the Plasencias and Rafael Nodal, who's kind of in charge of the cigars that come out from this company. And they used a blend of Nicaraguan tobaccos grown by the Plasencia family on their farms all over the major growing regions of Nicaragua, including Ometepe, which I added in just because I love saying Ometepe. Yeah. Wrapper was fermented for twice as long as usual, and the cigars were aged for 26 months. There were notes of cedar and cinnamon on the pre-light, along with a little hint of leather. A very easy draw. When you take that first, draw once you've cut it or punched it, and you're like, oh yeah, this cigar is going to draw great, even though it's not lit yet. You can just feel the perfect amount of air coming through the tobacco. I used a punch. I lit it up. Got a lot of bold tobacco flavors on the first few puffs. Not necessarily pepper, but just an intense sort of blast of fermented tobacco. It was very pleasant. I liked it, but it settled down a little bit after the first half inch or so, even though the smoke remained pretty big throughout the entire thing. I looked up a couple of things about it online and saw it described as a medium-bodied cigar. My experience was definitely medium to full. It had a little more punch to it than what I would call medium-bodied. But for me, that's fine. That's kind of my sweet spot for cigars anyway. So it was a bit more straightforward than I was expecting, but I liked the flavors a lot. Rich tobacco, some earthiness, a little bit of citrus were the primary things I picked up during the first third. The ash held on for almost the first third of the cigar and stayed together nicely once I let it drop into my little Star Trek ashtray. I don't know if Adam's got that picture up now or not, but I'm kind of proud of that because I am a geek. The draw was easy, plenty of smoke. Any crookedness that would show up in the burn would basically just correct itself without needing to be tended. One of the most impressive things about the Eternal was the mouthfeel. It was very thick and creamy. You mentioned having lots of thick smoke, and this one was definitely like that. Second, third continued with the primary earthy and tobacco notes, along now with a little bit of black pepper on the retrohale. Great ash, perfect burn, continued all the way through. I'm really glad I liked the overall flavor of the Eternal a lot because it really didn't change much as it smoked. Normally, when you look at a blend like this, especially you've got tobacco from all these different growing regions in Nicaragua, you're kind of expecting it to shift and change. We talk about that with some cigars. This one didn't really do that, but I did really like the overall flavors that it presented, and it stayed pretty consistent all the way through until the final third. Earth, rich tobacco, and spiciness on the retrohale. I really enjoyed the Eternal. It's a very well-made cigar, smoked wonderfully. Even though the flavors were really consistent all the way through, like I said, they were quite tasty, and I smoked it down to the nub. But
that's a big but.
The Eternal is a $15 cigar.
It's a very expensive cigar.
And that raises the bar substantially on my expectations because, I normally smoke in the $8 range, more like what you had today. That's kind of my... It's just sort of my, when I go for a cigar out of the humidor, it's usually something that's generally in that area. And I can't really tell you that this was better than an AJ New World or a $10 EP Carrillo, and it was $15. So while it's worth a try, and I do recommend it for the smoking experience, on the price to quality scale, I got to go with a 4.
It's funny you said that. I looked up my review on that, and you and a few other people that I've talked to about that have kind of the same opinion on it.
It's really good.
I gave it a 6.
Interesting. So you felt like it actually outperformed its $15
more
price.
Complex flavors in there. I've got, and I gave it a 6. Amazing burn, complex flavors, exactly what I want from a super premium cigar. It's exactly what I wrote.
It's really interesting because it is also notable that there have been some cigars that I've smoked and then smoked another one at another time and gotten a different experience. So that happens. It can have to do with, things that you ate, the breeziness of where you're smoking, all kinds of things can play into that.
Palate, anything.
Absolutely.
Anything.
But for me, it didn't quite live up to the $15 price. But I can't tell you I didn't enjoy it. I really did.
Yeah.
So There you go. That's my thoughts on the Eternal. And what a surprise! You and I disagreed on. We never do that.
No, never.
Speaking of which, by the way, one of the big disagreements you and I have is on martinis. And we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty on that next week on the show.
That's next week.
That's next week because our cocktail expert, Chris
the
Morris.
Martini versus Kangaroo.
As you like to call it. I like to call it the Great Martini Challenge. But we'll be putting up gin martinis next to vodka martinis, knocking them back and seeing what we find. And Chris Morris is bringing kind of a vodka martini specialist, or as you would say, a kangaroo specialist, with him. And so they'll both be making martini. And listen, any excuse to get Chris in the building and have him make martinis, I'm down.
See, I would call that a martini specialist and a kangaroo fighter.
All right, fair enough. And isn't it funny that on Chris Morris's Drinking News intro song, he mentions fighting a kangaroo? I mean, when is that going to come up in a song, actually? Right. So speaking of Drinking News, we will get to that today among all of our tasting and the other things we want to share with you. Today's Drinking News teaser headline, I thought you just rolled them on. And we'll be back with more from the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin' in just a moment. Thank you guys for joining us for show number 244. Ooh. Okay. Welcome back. It's Smokin' and Toastin', the show that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. It's show number 244, our Stout blind taste test. Plus, we'll be doing Drinking News, as I mentioned. We'll also be talking about a few new cigars to watch for, and there's a list that's come out that I think we may have time to go through here of the 30 best Scotch whiskey brands.
30 best brands.
30 best brands of Scotch whiskey. This is according to VinePair, so it's not like one of those things where, oh, it's interesting, Camper World Monthly did a list of the best whiskeys. It's an actual, VinePair is a pretty awesome website, not only talking about wine, but also spirits of all kinds and beers. So.
I just want to point out one simple thing. When you get to a list that has the 30 best of something, you're not working real hard.
Well, that's true, but if you rank them, then there's some work involved.
Okay, then there's some work involved.
Right, so, all right, so we'll see if they're ranked or not. I believe they were from when I glanced at the list, but a lot of times, to be honest, I'll find these lists and I don't like to look at them too much because I want to be, a little surprised as we reveal what's on the list. Right. Other than feeling like I already know. Like I'm going to be honest with you. I already know a bit about this rum we're going to taste today.
Yeah. I see you've cleared the neck, so there's no spillage.
Right. That's my mantra. That's what I like to do. Yeah, it is. Everybody has a signature move, and that's mine. I try not to bring spirits in where the neck could possibly, have a lot of liquid in it and pour out and splash.
Plus, sometimes you have to let things aerate a little bit.
Right, get a little air in there, let them breathe. Let them breathe.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to share this with you as, I know we're kind of going through this weird, second, third, fourth surge of COVID. But those who are vaccinated are starting to do stuff that we didn't do, for a long time.
Right.
And one of those things is to travel. And if you are traveling and feeling, comfortable with traveling, I wanted to share with you a list that I found for whiskey lovers. They're distilleries where you can spend the night.
What?
Yeah, doesn't that sound like a cool idea? So you go, you tour the distillery, you go to the tasting room, you stay in the tasting room, spend a little more time in the tasting room because your room is close by and you're walking to it. It's a pretty good idea. And plus, it's just being able to visit like cool and interesting locations that also are distilleries, that can elevate your vacation just a bit.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to worry about driving back to the hotel. So while visiting a distillery and sampling the goods is always a fun time, check out Journeyman Distillery in Three Oaks, Michigan. People say you can taste the passion infused in every bottle of whiskey produced by Journeyman Distillery. It's the brainchild of founder Bill Welter, and you can also stay right on the property at the adjacent Staymaker restaurant that's there. And Welter's Folly is a 30,000 square foot, 18-hole golf course behind the facility. If you're into golfing. So it takes about 90 minutes to complete their tour and sampling. And after that, I'm sure you can find another drink if you want one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's Journeyman Distillery in Michigan. In Carbondale, Colorado, you'll find Marble Distilling Company. There's a lot of reasons to make a trip there. It's 30 miles from Aspen, the picture-perfect town of Carbondale, offering a year-round hub for adventure seekers. And this is also a place where they use only locally sourced grains, and all stillage is sent off to local ranchers. It's a zero-waste craft facility.
Nice.
So, very cool thing. And they make vodka, gingercello, and even coffee liquor, as well as some really fine whiskey. Marble Distilling Company, and in the article, if you go and find this article came from Men's Journal, and there's a picture of the room. It looks really nice. I mean, it's very, very quaint. The Glenora Inn and Distillery in Nova Scotia, Canada. Can we travel to Canada yet? I think they're still.
I think if you have your vaccine, I don't know what Canada's doing right now. Actually,
yeah, I think if you're vaccinated, I think you may be able to. If not, you will soon. And Nova Scotia is a great place to visit, particularly in the warmer months. And Glenora Inn and Distillery is a place that is on Cape Breton Island at the eastern end of Nova Scotia, and it's absolutely beautiful. And you can stay on the property there as well. Brush Creek Distillery in Saratoga, Wyoming, is another. If it's not bed and breakfast, it'd be like bed and whiskey, I guess, right?
Right,
yeah,
right.
Bed and whiskey. It's another place that you can go.
Whiskey and breakfast?
They capture the true spirit of the American West. Bed and whiskey and breakfast. I like it. There's a picture of that. It's just a beautiful, very rustic-looking kind of Western hotel. I like it very, very much. It looks like it'd be very comfortable to stay there. In Virginia Beach, Virginia, you can visit and stay over at the Tarnished Truth Distilling Company.
That's a great name.
I love that name. It's just so good. I haven't tried their liquor, but I want to.
Never heard of it, but
and
man,
the Cavalier Hotel on site there is absolutely beautiful. So a few that you can try. I'm sure there are more. In fact, if anybody that's listening to the show knows of more of those places that you can do that, please send it to us in the show notes.
Yeah, I don't know about staying there, but I've been in some very beautiful. Like when we went out to West Texas earlier this year, we stopped at. We stopped at a brewery. Absolutely gorgeous. The Allstat Brewery.
Allstat, yes.
Absolutely gorgeous out there.
Yeah.
The brewery and the whole premises is just amazing looking.
It's a pretty cool idea if you think about it, combining the sort of bed and breakfast experience with a brewery or a distillery, if you can find places that do that. And I have a feeling you're going to see more and more of that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Stuart Skloss, who is with Pura Vida Tequila, last time he was on the show, he was talking about they're launching a whiskey from their company.
Oh, I do remember
and
that.
It's going to be based in Texas, and they are also going to have an on-site hotel area where you can go and stay at their distillery. I remember him telling us that. So maybe we'll have Stuart back on. I think that whiskey's about to come out. So,
we haven't seen him. Yeah, it's been a couple years since we've seen him.
I run into him in my building all the time because he lives there, and he's always
what
like,
a beautifully interesting character too.
Yes,
he's so fun.
He really is. By the way, speaking of our friend Stuart and Pura Vida Tequila. Makes me think of Billy Gibbons, which makes me think of the sad news that Dusty Hill passed yesterday.
A moment of silence.
I got to tell you, if you were from Texas, as both Ian and I are, you recognize the contribution that ZZ Top has made to rock and blues in Texas. They're
Top.
just an amazing,
unbelievable,
amazing part of our state's musical history and heritage. And Dusty will be missed. That's for sure. All right, it is time to kick off the first ever Smokin' and Toastin' Stout Blind Taste Test. So here's what we've done. I brought in 6 different stouts of various kinds and styles, and a number of them in bombers, some of them are in cans. So I had Adam open them all so we wouldn't be able to even hear whether it was in a can or a bottle as he's pouring. He's going to give them to us 2 per segment. We'll do this in 3 segments. We're going to taste them, talk about what we taste, and then we'll contrast them A to B with the second one. We'll pick a favorite of the 2, and then at the end of the show, we'll name our 3 favorites from the show.
For keeping things from being too confusing, I'm going to refer to segment 1 as segment A.
Okay.
And then beer 1 and 2. And then when we do segment B, we'll have beer 3, 4,
Fair
and
enough.
that way our numbers will all match up and so on. Right?
All right, that sounds
so
good.
we'll have segment A, B, C. We'll have beers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So,
and that way we're not confusing segment C beer 1 with beer 1 from segment B.
Right.
Or segment 1 beer 1. All that.
so
stuff.
this is A1.
This is A1.
Segment A, beer 1, a very almost motor oil looking sheen to this one, but it's not. Doesn't appear to be quite that
It
thick.
smells
although it leaves,
like burnt caramel in the best
man,
way.
you are not kidding. Burnt caramel in the way that a creme brulee smells.
Burnt caramel and molasses.
You ever, you know how they creme brulee will smell after they've done the torch along the top of it? That's what I get from this.
This is silky and chocolatey, and I'm going to put a guess out here right there. So, let me put a few notes here. I'm going to get this tastes like something that would come from the brewery.
The brewery, okay. That's right. It does have, because they do a lot of, I think, what are called pastry stouts, and this has a little of that vibe to it. It's
so this
almost
is
like
silky.
it's almost like a confectioner's sugar on top of, the darker flavors like molasses and even almost a honey flavor in this as well. I get cacao nibs. I get, which is just fun to say, kind of like dank and funk, cacao nibs and a little bit of coffee.
Yeah, coffee. There's a little spiciness too.
Yes, just a little hint of a peppery, but it's not much.
Slight spicy.
Yeah. It's not like a mu caliente, which has a lot of pepper to it. Yeah, it's just a real little hint of it.
By the way, I'm not a big fan of beers a lot of times, or
that are peppery
cocktails that have that kind of spicy, like jalapeno and cayenne and all that stuff.
I've said on the show before, I love spicy foods, but not as much spicy drinks.
But every once in a while, there's a drink or a beer that comes out. Mu Caliente is pretty amazing.
It is a really good beer. You have to be ready for it, I will say that. But it is a really good beer. All right, so that is stout number A1.
That's pretty delicious.
Here is stout number A2.
Well, you can't separate them by color.
But I know they actually, and I'm holding them side by side.
Identical.
Adam, are you sure you didn't pour more of the same one? Okay.
You can tell on the smell. This has definitely a lot more hops in it.
Oh yes, you can get the hops on the nose for sure. Ooh. Now on this one, on the last one, you got that sort of pastry vibe and the sweetness up front. On this one, you get hops up front, but then the finish is that chocolatey, honey, molasses sort of sweetness to it.
There's something in there I'm trying to...
Wow. That's really good. I will tell you already, these are going to be hard for me to choose a favorite between. Is it that way for you, or do you have a clear-cut favorite already?
Well, so between these two, I like, and the stouts, I like the sweeter beer. So I would say number one, this has a little bit of that hoppy, bitter aftertaste, which is not bad. This is a very enjoyable beer. But I prefer less of that hop bitterness on the end of this. Now, the bitterness on the end of this comes across more coffee-like.
You're right. It is a coffee bitter more than it's a hop bitter, for sure.
It has more of a coffee-like bitter, but that hops to me kind of dominates a little bit in this. And not a totally bad flavor, but
I'm gonna go back to the other one just since.
But I prefer the profile of the first one with less of that, more of the malty, big roundness.
Now, see if this happens to you. After I had the second one and went back for a sip of the first, I get that peppery flavor is a little more distinct.
Yeah, there's a little more of that spice. So, yeah, I'm definitely gonna say my favorite of the two is the first one. I like the mouthfeel of the first one. The second one,
it's a little bit thinner mouthfeel.
What's that?
A little bit thinner mouthfeel.
Yeah, it's a little thinner mouthfeel. I don't know if that's if the hops really interacts with that, but I found that stouts that have a little more of the hoppy flavors in general tend to not be as full and thick. The first one could almost be like some kind of like lactose in there almost.
Well, this will probably surprise you, or not. I'm going to pick number two.
No.
The hop thing, I'm a hop head anyway. I love IPAs, and while this is not nearly that level of hops, it's not like an in-your-face hops. I like that little trace of it in there that makes it feel a little more like a beer to me, and I like it. But it's also very big. I'm betting that this one is actually a higher ABV, that number 2 is higher ABV than number 1.
Oh, see, I didn't even think about those things.
Well, all right.
It's quite possible.
Let's do a reveal, Adam. Show us what number 1 of segment A is, and pass the bottle over. Number 1 of segment A. Oh, very interesting. This is from Prairie Artisan Ales. It's their Cherry Bomb, and I've actually had this one before, but I did not recognize it at all when we went to it in the taste test. Prairie Artisan Ales, I mean, these guys don't make any of what you might call normal beers. Everything they have is just super creative, super, wild combinations of things.
FYI, we nailed everything that they say on here.
So what does it say on the bottle?
Except for cherries.
Well, I didn't get cherry on it.
I didn't get a lot of cherry,
I'm going to go back to it now.
Maybe if I'm looking for it, but
I was just waiting for someone to say chocolate cherries.
Adam said he was waiting
so
for
it says Imperial Stout aged
now
on
I can
cherries.
Now I can totally pick it up.
And
now
then
that I know.
And then we picked up. We said coffee. We said cacao nibs. We said vanilla beans. We said chili peppers. We caught everything in there except for the cherries. This is a beautiful beer.
It really is.
I really like it.
It's wondrous. And interestingly enough, I think it may be the only beer we'll try today that came in a 12-ounce bottle. There may be some cans, but most of these are in larger bombers, and it'll be interesting to see how all of this holds up.
It's so funny that once you have it in your head and you taste it, it's immediately
the cherry
apparent.
How could I have missed the cherry?
But I didn't pick it up at
I
first.
I didn't either. But that is fascinating. And I've actually had this beer before.
But I will tell you, like I like.
We'll show
on
that
the
to
nose,
the camera to make
I was
sure we're getting a
blasted
good,
with the
good shot
caramel
of
and
that.
molasses flavors and the coffee right off the bat.
Well, I will just say, if you are a fan of very creatively put together beers, people who go the extra mile to do something different, Prairie Artisan Ales, that's your jam right there.
And I'll tell you something about Prairie Artisan Ales. I will buy them, even though I know that there's a certain percentage of them that are not going to be winners.
But and that are not going to be to your
but at
particular
least they're
taste.
trying.
Yeah,
They're doing
I'm
something.
with you. I'm with you. I love it. All right, that was number 1, Prairie Cherry Bomb. Adam, what was number 2? Oh, will you look at this? This is from Fort George Brewing, their Sweet Virginia series. It's the, let me see if I can say this Russian word correct, Matryoshka. It's a bourbon and whiskey barrel aged Russian Imperial Stout, and I don't know if it says on the Cherry Bomb what the ABV is.
Let's see.
I'm not finding it on there.
I'm not seeing an ABV on here at all.
But I can tell you that this one, the Matryoshka from Fort George, 12.8.
Oh, this is 11.5, so we're not far from each
All
other.
right, so 12.8 on the Fort George. We've had one of their beers on the show before, and it was also a Russian Imperial Stout.
Yeah.
But I believe it was a little bit different than this one. Well, that is fascinating. So I picked that one. You picked the Cherry Bomb. So far we're divided and on what was our absolute favorite. But then again, this is just an AB, and I would drink either of those again.
They're both delicious.
Fantastic.
So the fact that I picked the Cherry Bomb over the Matryoshka,
yeah.
Doesn't I like the little
Russian
is
that like a
doll?
nesting doll? Is that what that is?
But the body of it's a whiskey barrel.
Show that to the camera. Yeah, it's like a little nesting doll with a whiskey barrel for the bottom.
Get this camera.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh yeah, put them on Twirligig. There you go.
Look at you being all smart. Using the tools we have at hand.
It's like he's the producer of the show, isn't it?
Almost like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, that would make one of us.
The student has become the master.
So I got to tell you, I loved both of those beers. I mean, to me, both of those are worthy of repeat consumption.
Yeah, they're very nice.
Yeah, so very interesting. Well, I'm going to be curious to see where this takes us. That was segment A with 2 beers. We liked both of them. Ian liked number 1 the best. I liked number 2 the best. But for me, it was very close. Like I could easily be swayed one way or the other. I just wound up picking the one with a little more hoppy flavor because that's, I like.
Because you're hoppy like that.
I like the hops. Yes, I'm a hoppy guy. What can I tell you? All right, let's take a break. We will come back. We have cigars to watch for coming up in the next segment, and we will be also getting ready. We have 2 more segments where we're going to taste stouts, and we will also be tasting a little bit of rum, and I think maybe we'll do the rum in the next. So this is a short segment. We'll do the rum. Yeah, let's do the rum. That'll be it. Then we'll come back. We'll have cigars to watch for. We'll do another taste test, and then of course, in our last longer segment, we have your drinking news. I see you brought the ukulele. For a minute I didn't see it, and then I saw the top of it there. So very, very nice, very exciting. Smoking and Toasting, show number 244. Our stout blind taste test is in effect. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is the radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza that is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Today, going heavy on the stout as we do a little stout blind taste test. You know what's cool about...
I love this show already.
You know what's cool about doing 6 stouts in a blind taste test?
There's 6 stouts?
Well, there's that, and there's the fact that means there's plenty more stouts so we can do it again. But right now, it's rum time. And, oh, you're really good at that. Oh, that was just spectacular.
I might have juiced that a little bit.
You may have been the best one you've done though. That was really spectacular. Today's rum, as we mentioned in the first segment, is one of those barrel selections, and the guys at Specs chose a barrel from the Bacardi people, and it's a very interesting process, this barrel selection, and I continue to wonder, how did I miss out on that as a profession?
Right.
Being the person that gets to go and test the different barrels of spirits out and see which one we want to, have as our exclusive in our store only version.
That's back to your high school guidance counselor. Never ever once mentioned it.
I've met this very interesting guy who works for Specs here in Houston. His name is Bear Dalton. And Bear Dalton, who it looks like his name, he's this big bear of a man, and he is their top wine buyer at Specs. Now, he gets a salary. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's pretty decent because he's a very skilled man, and he's got a very important job because what he picks needs to be the right stuff, so the sales will be good, right?
Yeah.
At Spec stores all over Texas. But his job, not only does he get a salary, but it gets flown all over the world to wineries by the wine companies where they, have him sample their wines to see if he wants to stock them. Yeah.
What a great job.
Again, why did I not know this job existed when I was in school? I'd have gone to whatever training I needed to go to.
I didn't get quite enough sleep, and now I have to wake up and fly to France and try wine.
Do you wonder if it ever gets like that way? You're like, oh man, I got to go to Versailles and go to a winery. I just want to stay home and have some iced tea and a bologna sandwich.
Bologna sandwich.
It might happen. I don't know. So anyway, this rum was specially selected by the Specs, probably not by Bear Dalton, but by their spirits experts there, who also have a very enviable job. And it is made by Bacardi and is something that you would only be able to buy at Specs, although I'm sure they would probably ship it to you if you're out of state. So,
yeah, I love a lot of the barrel selections. I just love the idea of it because you're getting something that's just a little bit unique.
This is about a $38 bottle, which puts it at a price near to the most age, which I think was a 12-year that I saw on the shelf. So it's right at that price point, and it's... there is no age designation on this, by the way, so we don't know how old this rum is.
This has a bit of heat to it, actually.
Yeah, have you already done some sampling?
I have. And I'm going to also mention, it has some predictable Bacardi rum flavors.
It does, and that's not a bad thing.
No, not at all. Not at all. But there's the addition of, and I'm going to say it, bubblegum. And I don't mean it in a bad way, but bubble gum.
I get what you're saying.
And very specifically, like, you remember the stick of gum that used to come in the cards with the little powdery stuff on it?
It's got the little powder on it. Yes, it's that powdery taste that, and it's not unpleasant at all. In fact, it melds very well with the sort of caramel and vanilla vibe that the rum has got going. What I find almost more interesting about it than anything else, because it's only 40 proof. This rum leaves a nice little heat on your tongue and the back of your palate when it goes down. Yeah. And as somebody that, does a lot of aged rums, some of my favorites, you hardly know it's liquor. It's so smooth going down.
Yeah. There's also a really nice oak finish on this, a really dry oak finish on this that leaves you with that I want another sip kind of feel.
Yes, the Doritos effect.
Yes.
I like it. It's got, I'm almost getting a little bit of banana in there.
I could go with that. Yeah.
It is a delicious rum. Not quite as round and mapley as some other aged rums, but those flavors are there. They're just not as dominant as in some. You get more of that almost Hefeweizen banana and a little bit of that... a little like banana peel astringency kind of thing going on, or almost like a green leafiness going on. But again, it's a very positive thing. That's not a negative, and the sort of sweetness of that bubble gum and the powder from the top of the stick just sort of rolls it all into a very enticing. That's a delicious bottle.
This is one of the more unique rums I think we've had on here.
I would agree, and we've had some very interesting rums.
And all these flavors are there, but they're also kind of delicate in this too. They're not. This is not a. There's a little bit of a punch to it, but the flavors themselves are a little more floating on top, like icing.
And there's heat, but it's not in your face at all.
There's a sweetness to this too, like icing. That's very unusual.
Makes you feel like it'd be good on ice cream.
I'll bet.
Although I think I've almost yet to meet a rum that wouldn't be good on ice cream. Rum ice cream. Somebody needs to do rum ice cream bars. Wouldn't that be great? Like just like amazing. A popsicle, not a popsicle, but like a chocolate.
I don't know that I love this rum, but I keep sipping it. Like it has that thing. That it has that. It's interesting, and I keep going back to it.
I do like it very much, but it is so different from most of the rums that I drink.
It is very bubblegum.
So I kind of have two different kinds of rum in my bar. I have the ones that are probably my favorites, which are the ones that are just very rich and mapley, and you almost don't even get heat from them. They're so smooth, and I just love those for sipping. And then I have the ones that kind of crank up the proof a little bit and are just a little more in your face, like the barrel rum, for example.
Right.
I mean, it's very good, but it's a very different experience. This one kind of lands somewhere in the middle for me, between those two styles. So that makes it really interesting.
I would highly recommend something like this particular flavor profile to someone who wants to get into, I don't know if I like rum, but I want to try it. And I'm not talking about like making daiquiris. I'm talking about sipping rum and trying some different flavors.
This is not your typical... This doesn't seem like something you'd want to necessarily put into a mixed drink, although I'm sure it'd be great. But this really seems more like a sipping rum to me.
Yeah, and I think the flavors on this, I think the diminished returns, if you were to mix this into a drink, you'd get some, but I think you'd be burying so many of the flavors that it wouldn't say, because it's kind of delicate overall.
I like it. La Paulina Cigars has something new. We'll tell you about that coming up in Cigars to Watch For. And the debate between whether you call it sauce or call it gravy makes its way to the world of cigars, and AJ Fernandez is involved.
Gravy, baby.
And we'll be right back with more of that. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is just really damn good rum. That's what it is.
I can't stop drinking it.
In the beginning,
Welcome back. It is Smokin' and Toastin'. We are so thrilled to be a part of your day or evening whenever you're consuming the show. Thank you for checking us out. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Great shirts on the web, snarky cigar sayings on them. They're great for cigar lovers and the people who love them. And they started under $20, so it's a real, like, you know, it's not like going to charge you $65 for a T-shirt like some sites will do. And then you get it and it shrinks, and you know that's never a good thing. But these shirts are great. They they are comfortable. They don't have that iron-on applique vibe to them. They're just really easy to wear. Very cool. And they're a sponsor of the show, so please help us out by sponsoring them, mycigarshirts.com, because... Cigars, yes. Speaking of cigars, in acknowledgement of their 125th anniversary, so we talked about 145th for Romeo and Julieta, but La Paulina Cigars is celebrating their 125th, and they're releasing a special limited edition cigar presented in period, vintage, Amatista-style jars, similar to those from over a century ago. La Paulina has also refreshed its KB line, which now has new packaging and 2 new sizes. Both were on display at the recent PCA trade show in Las Vegas. La Paulina 125 Años, in honor of the brand's 19th century founding, will be coming in a turn-of-the-century style glass humidor containing 37 cigars. I don't know why 37, but I guess that's what fit in the glass humidor.
Fits in the humidor, I guess.
Only 300 jars are being produced, so it's going to be a limited thing. So if you see this and you're interested, you'll want to grab it right away. It's an all-Nicaraguan cigar, and La Paulina turned to the Oliva Cigar Company to do the blending for them. Not much is being disclosed about the blend other than it's Nicaraguan tobaccos and that they are well-aged. The result is a Toro topped with a fantail cap measuring 6.5 inches by 52. So, we talk about this all the time. Oliva doesn't release a lot of crazy new blends all the time, but here's one they just did for La Paulina, so you might want to look. I'm going to be looking for this.
Is there a price for it on there?
I do not know the price on this at this point in time. So, but if it's 37 cigars, if you can't buy them individually,
it's not going to be
probably
cheap,
going to be a little chunk of change. Yeah, I have a feeling. For years, the debate has raged over whether the stuff that you pour over your dish of pasta should correctly be called sauce or be called gravy. If you're a fan of The Sopranos, Tony Soprano called it gravy. And I am not Italian, but I think I'm going to go with what Italians call it because they originated this whole style of food, and so I would go with gravy. But some people call it pasta sauce and or marinara sauce or whatever it is, and I understand that.
I never thought about the difference, but I want to say that I feel like if it's made to put just over meat, it's generally gravy.
It could be called gravy. Well, meat and pasta.
Over noodles, it generally feels more like sauce.
Well, when Italians don't do a lot of vegetarian pasta, I will just say that.
There's that, but
it does exist, but it's not. But
when I think gravy, I think like something made with the meat juices and.
Well, the gravy and when you make real authentic Italian sauce / gravy, you're using the bones, you're using all kinds of stuff in there to give it that meat flavor. So there's that. The gravy sauce debate has now spilled over into the cigar world thanks to a collaboration between Forged Cigar Company and some guy named AJ Fernandez. They call it Diesel Sunday Gravy. It's a new cigar made in Nicaragua by Fernandez, and it's composed of an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, a Nicaraguan binder from Esteli, and Nicaraguan filler from Jalapa. Justin Andrews is the brand manager at Forge Cigar Company, and he worked with AJ to stir up the blend. Get it? Stir up the blend. It's a little gravy sauce joke there. And he likened the cigar production to his mother's methods of simmering the perfect Sunday sauce. His process actually reminds me, he said, of my mom and how she cooked her Sunday sauce slowly over a low flame, knowing she had the luxury of being able to cook all day on a Sunday and get it just right, Andrew said. The comparison to cooking inspired the name of this new collaboration with AJ, and it's actually very similar to his approach in blending tobacco. I can see AJ as a very patient man. You know,
Yes.
taking his time, getting it right. Sunday Gravy is a single-sized Toro that's 6x54. In keeping with the cigar's saucy theme, it goes by the name San Marzano, referencing the prized tomatoes grown in the San Marzano region of Italy. Forge Cigar Company is a distribution arm of Scandinavian Tobacco Group. They'll be releasing the smokes on the 12th of August in packs of 10 that are set to retail for $49.90, which is $5 a cigar. So you gotta love a new diesel Gravy, saucy,
nice.
And it's only $5. The next Sunday Gravy blend is expected to come out in October.
We have an
one in
OnStark.
August, one in October.
We have an OnStark update about
the gravy debate.
No, about the previous cigar. He said the 125th Años is expected to start shipping around the end of October, early November, and will have a retail price of $25 per cigar.
$25 per cigar. So that,
cigar.
if I'm not mistaken, that will make it the most expensive La Palina there is.
Yes, and that's a very expensive.
And Oliva's not known for pricey cigars either, so this must be something really special.
I want to point out for La Palina too, their Candela.
Oh, it's
is
wonderful.
So good.
It's wonderful.
Like if you want to just smoke something so different but so good, the La Palina Candela is definitely like the Candela of choice for me.
Well, I've been enjoying adding this segment to the show where we talk about cigars that are coming out, because one of the things, if you're like us, you're always looking for, like what's new. And so to be able to hear about something that's coming that's new and kind of keep an eye open for it can be a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you can't always, although they're very good about it, you can't always count on the boys over at Casa to do an end cap for you.
Yeah.
They do a good job of that, don't get me wrong, but
they know their stuff that they always tell me, like, hey, this is new, have you tried this? Or that.
Two of my favorite places to go and just say, what am I smoking today, is Casa and Stogie's.
Yeah,
over on
Stogie's.
Westheimer.
Jorge's great like that. What am I smoking today?
What am I smoking today? Oh, you got to try this, yeah. All right, what are we drinking today?
Coffee, apparently.
Here is segment B of our Stout face-off, our Stout blind taste test. This is Stout number 1, segment B.
This
Ian?
is just coffee.
Well, you're right. It is almost like it is almost on the nose. It's almost just like a cup of coffee.
This is just coffee.
Cold maybe, but
it's like coffee with a slight beer kind of nose.
And it's interesting because it is coffee on the finish, but there's not as much of it up front as I was expecting. And this is also not as thick a mouthfeel as I was expecting. It drinks more like an ale than a stout to me. But it's delicious.
Nice. I do like the coffee.
It's got a caramel and coffee vibe to it. Little bit carbonated. Very easy to drink. Not one of those where you go, it doesn't feel like it's boozy. It might be, but it doesn't feel like it.
There's coffee and coffee bitter finish on that. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a thin mouth feel. That's not a bad thing. It just is.
I enjoy it. I like it. It doesn't feel quite as big as the first two that we tried, but it's very drinkable. More crushable.
It's kind of a burnt caramel in the background, too.
Yes, for sure. I'm making a couple of quick notes here. Thinner mouthfeel. A little more carbonation, which I would almost start to tell you that I don't like, but it seems to work in this particular beer. Any other thoughts?
A very hop bitter finish to it.
Mm-hmm.
So not in a bad way. This is not a hoppy beer, but there's definitely the hops present. You can taste that.
All right, let's move on to beer B. Or I'm sorry, beer 2.
Beer 2.
Segment B.
Oh, this is
2.
chocolate.
Oh, chocolate bomb.
Wow.
If this pays off like it smells, this is going to be the chocolatiest we've had so far.
Oh, that's a big silky. Holy cow!
And it does. Wow, that's good. That's almost like hot chocolate, only not hot. You know that creamy sort of marshmallowy flavor you get if you've had just a little bit of marshmallow melted into your hot chocolate.
I would say marshmallow in general definitely has that.
You get that on the finish of this in a big way.
It's a big, thick mouthfeel. I put thick MF.
Yes, it is.
Mouthfeel.
It is thick. How boozy do you think this is? Does this strike you as boozy?
This one strikes me as very boozy.
Yeah.
This is delicious. This is definitely my, as I spill it all over the table, my favorite of the two.
Maybe so. Maybe grab some napkins because Ian may lose his notes here. That would be the bad news. Can you still read your Stout stained notes?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Now they're more authentic.
Yeah, well, that's true, and it's a good thing. Here, I can pass you some fresh paper just in case you need it. Adam's grabbing some. This is how you know the show is live. By the way, we would edit all this out if it wasn't. But no, that's good. Thank you,
Thanks,
Adam.
Man.
Thankfully, the edge of the table is ridged, so you managed to keep that from spilling over onto you.
Oh, I thought it was for her pleasure.
Well, there is
that's
that.
different.
There is that as well.
That's not ridged.
That's ribbed,
That's
I believe.
different word,
Yeah,
right?
I think that's right. Okay.
Yeah, I can't believe I did that.
All right. Well,
I just knocked my pen right into it.
and you were enjoying this one, though. Were you saying that you think this is your
my
favorite of the segment?
two, definitely.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one. This is
Dude,
absolutely.
I cannot win.
Absolutely. Did you just crack your
I just
cup?
cracked my cup.
And, this is what I love about this man, though. He spilled it, he's cracked his cup, but he still empties it all the way.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure no more of it spilled.
He takes that stout down. Adam, what are we dealing with here? What was stout number one? Stout number one is Buried Hatchet.
Buried Hatchet. There you go.
So we described this as having
And I
a
do
little,
love the Buried Hatchet.
a little thinner mouthfeel. And there's more of the second one, Ian, as Adam is taking care of you. As a good
And you know, I
producer does.
tout Buried Hatchet as one of my favorites.
Yes.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, Buried Hatchet is a great stout. You're right. We talk about this all the time as being a great example of the
Yes.
whole genre. But in this particular case, we both picked the other one above it. And what was that other one, Adam? Oh, will you look at that? It's Smog City Brewing's Infinity Wishes limited release 2021 bourbon barrel aged imperial stout.
It takes
coconut.
something pretty. Well, so here's to. I mean, this is a very special bottle, of course.
Yes.
Apparently, but
Costs probably
here's to the
about
fact
10
that
times
that is
what the can
produced
of
all the time.
Yeah, it costs about 10 times what the can of Buried Hatchet costs. Ian, I thought it's interesting. On the can, or on the bottle rather, there's a little sticker that says coconut and vanilla, and neither of us said either of those two things
Right.
when we sampled it. I get it though; like I can taste that in there. Oh yeah.
So this one's 13.4%.
So
You asked me if I thought it was boozy.
yeah,
13.4.
and you do get the coconut and
Buried
vanilla. when
Hatchet
you-
is always coming in at
yeah, it's
10.
it's. I was gonna say it's no slouch either in the ABV department. So
I can't see it on here where it is.
I've seen my friend Carrie get absolutely hammered on these things.
Oh yeah, it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
Yeah, Buried Hatchet is let's see. Yeah, I don't see the ABV on here, but I know it's pretty high. It's 10%ish.
Yeah, Buried Hatchet is from Southern Star, which is located
the
just
road
to
in Conroe.
the north of us here in Conroe. And they're a terrific brewery. That's a great stout, but boy, it might not have been fair that it was up against this this Imperial. You know?
Yeah, keep in mind when we say right up the road here in Texas, that's usually an hour away.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's South Dallas as far as I'm concerned.
South Dallas.
But no, this is wow, a couple of really great beers. So, all right, let me think here. We got more to get to here. We got drinking news coming up. Maybe I should share with you, Ian, since we have just a moment in this. Excuse me. See, I told you we're live. We have just a moment in this segment, so maybe I should share with you this article on the 30 best Scotch.
30 best
Scotch whiskey brands. Thank you very much. This is from an article from VinePair. And so here's how they separate them out. They actually don't rank them, but they separate them into categories. So here is the under $50 category. Mossburn Speyside Blended Malt Scotch Whiskey. Are you familiar? All right. The next one is Dewar's, 15-year-old.
I like it's called Mossburn, though.
Mossburn is a good name, isn't it? Yeah. That'd be a great name for like the Mossburn Sluggers, like a minor league baseball team, you know?
All right.
Be kind of cool. Dewar's 15-year-old blended whiskey.
I don't know if I had to 15.
$41. Old Pulteney, 12 years, single
Seen
malt
it.
Scotch.
I hadn't tried it.
Average price $45. Wims's, Wemyss. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Wims's Malts, The Hive, blended malt Scotch whiskey. Average price $46. And now we move to the under $100 category. Anknock, 12-year-old Highland single malt Scotch whiskey. I'm not familiar with this one at all. Anknock is Ancnoc. Its average price is $55 a bottle, and it's a 12-year-old Highland single malt Scotch. Arran Barrel Reserve single malt Scotch whiskey, average price $55. I've had several different expressions
I've had
of
the
the
Arran
Arran.
malts, yeah, but I haven't had that one.
I haven't had this one at all. Bruichladdich, the classic laddie, unpeated Islay Scotch single malt Scotch whiskey.
That's a mouthful. Can you say that like 6 times?
No, I can't even say it once. But it's the classic laddie from Bruichladdich, and it is a sea green bottle, like a seafoam green bottle with white lettering. I have not seen this one or tried it. It is average price $59. Now, I have had this next one. Glenfiddich Bourbon Barrel Reserve 14-year-old single malt.
I have some at home.
Oh, it's so good.
It is real good.
It is a $59 bottle as well. There's the Glenglassaugh Revival Highland Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. Average price is $60, and it pays homage to the Glenglassaugh Distillery, which sat idle for decades before they fired up the stills again and started trickling out fine whiskey. We've actually talked about this. We have not had this one on the show. Mm-hmm. We've actually talked about this whiskey because of the whole revival. Here's one I've had and can heartily recommend. Coming in at a price of $60 per bottle, the Glenlivet 14-year Cognac Cask Selection single malt. And it is, the influence of those Cognac casks, like, you sort of pick that up from the get-go with this one. And it's one of the reasons it's so good. If you like fruitcake, this is a good whiskey for you.
Yeah.
How about the Talisker 10-year-old single malt?
I have that at home.
Average price $60 for a bottle.
Quite good.
Yeah. Produced at the oldest distillery on the Isle of Skye. It's a peated single malt. The Balvenie 12-year-old Doublewood. Come on, that's like just one of the all-time like pleasures of life right there. It's a $65 bottle and worth every.
Yes,
penny.
they also have the 14-year Doublewood,
which is a little
almost
more,
twice the
and a little more and really, really good.
Really good.
The Benriach, the Smoky 12 Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey. Have not had this.
I don't have the Smoky 12. I have a Benriach on my shelf, but it's not the Smoky 12.
Is something you like?
Oh yeah. So like
it's a $68 bottle.
For those listening, if you're wondering, like I get this question all the time. Hey, what's a good Scotch?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's like saying what's a good soda,
right?
Like, what do you like? Because
right, exactly. You might like Orange Crush. You might like cola. You might like
The flavors are so across the board and just within Scotch, so it's a little hard to say.
The Speyburn 15-year-old Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey at $68 makes the list. The list. The Compass Box, the Spaniard blended malt Scotch whiskey.
I have seen that. I haven't actually tried it.
It's a $70 bottle. So that may explain why you haven't tried it. Like, you see something that looks interesting at $70. That's a harder.
It's a harder justification.
Yeah. It might be fantastic, and according to this, it is. How about the Glenmorangie, the Quinta Raban 14-year-old Highland single malt?
That's a go-to.
It is wonderful.
The Quinta Raban and the La Santa, and I know La Santa's got to be on there.
You know what I really like is the Spios.
The Spios?
Yeah. Spiosh. I'll never forget that. That was like one of the greatest.
That one's spicy.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Spicy in a great way.
Wonderful.
And I have a tail of cake at the house as well.
Oh, cake is like that's now you're talking. We got to talk about having you bring that one in.
It's good.
Yes, it is. The Port Charlotte Islay Barley 2012 Islay single malt Scotch whiskey. Brought to you by the same folks that distill Bruichladdich. Average price is $82. Johnny Walker 18-year-old blended Scotch whiskey, $89. That would be... Now, I don't mean this in a bad way to Johnny Walker, but that would be so hard for me to pick that up off the shelf, carry it to the register, and pay $90 for it.
So,
you know,
we could talk about Johnny Walker for a second. Johnny Walker Red is not good. Like, it is not.
Johnny Walker Black's not bad.
Johnny Walker Black is drinkable. Johnny Walker Double Black, which I have at the house, is actually quite interesting.
And isn't there a blue?
Johnny Walker Blue is like $250 a bottle, $230 a bottle, and it's amazing. Johnny Walker 18 is pretty darn good. I've also had the Gold, which is right in that same price range, which is pretty amazing.
It's just tough for me to think about picking up and carrying a $90 bottle of Johnny Walker to the register and buying it. You know what I mean? Like it's just something. It's a hard thing to feel.
Is it
like
easier when you change the name, like a $90 Glenfiddich or a $90?
Without question, yeah.
Right.
Because I don't think of them in the same.
I think that Johnny Walker suffers a little bit like what Cuervo suffers from. Cuervo suffers from the fact that they make an inexpensive liquor that everybody drinks. Everyone has,
and it's just not outstanding at all.
Has some kind of
story,
story about.
Without question.
And then when you go buy the really expensive stuff, which is generally amazing,
in my opinion, the best tequila ever
but
made.
it still says that name on it. So it's tough. It's a tough sell on that. You know,
the Oban 14-year West Highland single malt Scotch whiskey. I have just a tiny little bit of a bottle of Oban at home.
Oban is great.
I don't know if it was this expensive. This is an $89 bottle. I don't recall paying that much for it, so I may not have. Maybe a lesser bottle.
Which one is it?
This is the Oban 14-year-old West Highland.
I'm trying to remember what I have.
It's $89, but the Bowmore 15-year-old single malt Scotch. This is what the article said. I want to read you this. Should you seek a quote-unquote approachable step into the world of peated whiskey, this should be your first destination. So, and
that doesn't mean price-wise. That means flavor-wise.
Right. Yeah, it's a $90 bottle of Scotch. So, Lagavulin Offerman Edition, Guinness Cask Finish Single Malt Scotch Whiskey.
I want that.
That sounds wonderful.
I've never seen that before, but
$93. Lagavulin. Did I say Lagavulin?
Lagavulin. I have a Lagavulin on my shelf, but it's not that one.
Yeah, that does sound really good, though, doesn't it? Ardbeg, Corey Vrecken, single malt Scotch whiskey, arriving at a whopping 57.1% ABV. The alcohol, they say, is seamlessly incorporated. It's a $95 bottle. And now, my friend, we get to the over $100 category. So let's just dream a little bit here, shall we? The Aberlour Abunda, thank you.
I have that on my shelf.
Aberlour Abunda Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey. How is it? Is it worth $100?
It's great.
Is it worth $100?
That's great, yeah.
The Aberfeldy 16-year-old Highland single malt Scotch whiskey.
Scotch.
150 Scotch. What was my favorite thing to hear him say?
The pen is mightier.
The pen is mightier than the sword. You know who the new version of him is Liam Neeson.
Oh, all right.
You know, it's not the accent's not quite as thick, but I am a man with a very particular set of skills.
It's the only good part of that movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And quite frankly, he should say that in every single movie.
Yeah.
Like it would make every movie he's in better. You know?
I have a very specific.
Specific set of skills. It's kind of like Samuel L. Jackson. I am tired of these MFing snakes on this MFing plane. It's a terrible movie, but it's worth seeing for that line alone.
I never watched that movie.
Oh, you have to. But when you do, you'll want some of this Lafrague Cardias 2021 Pedro Ximenez.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous? Is that how you say it? Thank you. You're better with these pronunciations than I am. You have that.
Well, I have one of them. I have an older version of it.
$105 bottle in its current
and we
iteration.
actually brought it on the show one time.
Oh.
So when I looked up how to pronounce that, the Wikipedia or whatever I looked it up on said it's somewhere between saying car chase and gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
I
love it. The Macallan Double Cask 15-year-old Highland single malt Scotch whiskey. The Glenrothes 18-year-old Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey.
That's a good one.
Have you had that one?
Yeah.
$158 bottle. The Glendronach Allardyce 18-year-old Highland single malt Scotch whiskey. Please tell me that isn't named after David Allardyce.
I don't think so. But I had that Glendronach 17 that we brought on the show at one point in time, which was amazing.
This is a $190 bottle. So, the Mortlock 20-year-old Cowie's Blue Seal single malt Scotch whiskey at $240
Don't
a
know
bottle.
that one.
We're getting up there now. The Brooklotic Black Art 1994 unpeated single malt Scotch whiskey at $550 a bottle.
That's
See how
all?
this is climbing? And there we go. That's the end of our list. So I'm sure they could have gone on with $1,000 bottles of Scotch and stuff, but that is now. I don't remember the price of it, but you and I got to taste a 31-year-old. Was it Balvenie?
30-year-old.
A 30-year-old Balvenie.
Yeah.
That was just, wow.
Yeah,
It was like
Jonathan
lap of
Wingo
luxury,
was running that tasting, and that was absolutely amazing.
It was just wonderful, and I would definitely put that at the top of the list. Yeah. What about that? You remember we had the guy on the show that was with Bob Dylan's
Heaven's
whiskey
Door.
company, Heaven's Door, and he had that one that was about a $400 bottle that came in the really nice leather-bound book and stuff. That was an awfully good whiskey as well, a bourbon, but it was spectacular.
And it's funny because like being in the industry where we are right now, we get to try some of those that I would never.
Right. I would never have been able to buy a bottle of that.
Yeah,
If I had the $400, I don't know that's what I would have chosen to spend it on.
I would probably buy Tools, but
Tools, I haven't had that. Is that a whiskey or a rum?
Tools.
That'd be a great name for like a whiskey. Tools,
Right.
12-year.
I'm going to work on my tools.
I love it. Coming up in the radio industry, I always said that if I dropped out of it, I was going to open a bar and call it The Transmitter, because the engineer, every day around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the engineer for the station would always come through the halls and go, "If anybody needs me, I'll be at The Transmitter." I thought you'd have a built-in audience,
Right.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's drinking news time. We have our, is this our last round? Yeah, it is. This will be our last round of stouts
C.
as we all get into segment C and do our stout blind taste test. And then in our final segment, we'll pick our favorites of the day. You are watching and listening to Smokin' and Toastin', where we've just talked about whiskey's more expensive than I will ever be able to buy. And it's like Chris Hart's show. And we'll be right back. Welcome back. It is Smokin' and Toastin', show number 244. We are all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Our program is brought to you by mycigarshirts.com because...
Cigars.
Yes. And by the way, big thanks to our guest from last week, John Kraft from Long Drink Canned Cocktails. Those were really fun to drink, and I enjoyed them, and I'm excited to have a couple of them very, very cold in my fridge. Very, very excited about that. We are doing the Stout Blind Taste Test today, and it's in full effect. And so far, we've had 4 of our 6 stouts. There's 2 more coming. But before we get started with that, it's time, my friends, for drinking news.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When I asked about his absent arm, he said, I
had to take my gator to the vet.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. I love that last chord. What is that last chord, by the way?
That's the G7.
Is that a G7?
Actually, it's C7. I forget because
C7,
I'm up.
okay.
I'm up a fourth. So.
Yeah. So it's that's a chord I actually even probably know how to play on the guitar. Yeah. Okay. I'll have to remember. It just sounds so good at the end of Drinking News theme song. Yeah.
Gives it a little bit of blues.
A reminder
was that Steve, by the way?
Yes. Steve. No, that was Rowdy. That was Rowdy Yates.
Rowdy, gotcha.
Yeah, that was Rowdy Yates. So, a reminder for you that Drinking News, which has become inexplicably one of the favorite segments on the program, is all about stories that are often, but not necessarily always, about drinking, but that are always best enjoyed if you've been drinking.
Yes.
And today's drinking news takes us across the ocean, where a British man... was found naked.
A British man on the island said... okay, sorry, go ahead.
A British man was found naked and quite dead by authorities in New Haven, East Sussex, England, last week. Officers found him already deceased and lying nude in his bed with something stretched across his face. Upon further investigation, it was determined that 31-year-old Gary Ashbrook had in fact died in his bed, and that what was stretched over his face and his head was a condom.
Over his face?
Yes, police determined that Ashbrook had suffocated when he pulled a condom filled with laughing gas over his face. His housemate, Michael Young, told officers that Ashbrook had been, quote, putting a condom on his head for sexual gratification, end quote, and then went on to add, I'm sure his death was an accident.
I'm trying to, the logistics of putting a condom on your head.
Yeah, well, perhaps you could label us sexually naive here at Drinking News, but thinking about the size of a condom, even one of those Magnum kind, and the size of the average person's skull, it's just completely new information to us that something like this is even possible, much less a gratification thing. No, but we do have a picture of a condom in a person's hand that shows you how unbelievable this feat would have to be. I can only guess if he filled it with laughing gas, it expanded, and he was able to somehow get it over.
Yeah, but like a balloon, it's not going to stretch the very end.
You know,
and then, I mean, condoms break.
Right.
Yes,
they do.
I don't know what to say.
Well, it just seems to us that it's completely new information that something like this is even possible, much less a gratification thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's a terrible way to go.
I will skip the obvious joke about which head the condom is designed to go over, and instead I'll tell another one that this reminds me of at least a little bit. I first heard this as an Aggie joke, but to save the feeling of the many people that I know that listen to this program who are graduates of A&M, I'll just let you insert your own favorite not-so-bright person into the blank. So a young blank went into the drugstore to buy a condom. He took the condom up to the drugstore checkout, set it on the counter, and the drugstore clerk said, well, that'll be $2.95 plus tax. And the blank, insert your favorite stupid person here, said, tax? I thought you just rolled them on. And that is your drinking news.
Drinking. How do you even find out that putting a condom over your head gives you gratification?
You got to be trying a lot of stuff to get to that. You know what I mean?
WTF, people.
Yeah. Think of all the things he tried that didn't work. You know?
Drinking news. Now it's time. I mean, realistically, you had to really be searching for that. It's absolutely insane.
And what's that tombstone going to say?
Here lies so-and-so. He got dead because he could have put a condom on his head.
And that's your drinking news.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Now, I can't think of a better setup than that for our final round
for drinking stout.
Drinking stout, yes, absolutely. I've already started to talk like Sean Connery, so I suppose we're Scotch. Yeah. I think my favorite thing to hear him say was I heard him doing a promo tour one time for a movie that he was in with Catherine Zeta-Jones. Just hearing him say
a very specific way of
yes,
speaking.
He did. By the way, if you've never watched him in Finding Forrester, like great movie, one of the greatest movies of all time. Go watch it. I'd never seen it. My wife goes, "You've never seen this?" And she made me sit down and watch it. Awesome movie. Finding Forrester, Sean Connery. The late Sean Connery, by the way. Okay, so have you already taken a drink of beer number one? But
Not
you've
yet.
smelled it.
I'm smelling it.
It's rich.
It's vanilla and caramel.
Vanilla, toasted caramel, a little bit of almost like a sugary honey flavor to it.
Oh, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
This is delicious.
Actually, I've really enjoyed all of the stouts we've had today.
Yeah.
But this is outstanding.
This is like a best of the best here, though. I mean, like, holy cow. This is a vanilla, and there's something tart in there.
Yes, there is. Almost like a, you know what? It's not fruity, but you know that flavor that a fruit tart has when you eat like a little piece of that fruit. It's got a little of that right on the center of the palate. I don't know. That's probably a bad
There's
description.
something tart in there. It could be tart cherry. Which I'm looking for now because we totally
we
missed
had
out
the
on
cherry on the first one. Yeah,
There's a lot of vanilla, a lot of caramel.
I'll tell you what, my friend, that's really good. It's got a spiciness to it too.
There is a little bit.
Almost like it reminds me of a little bit of the kind of spice of rye whiskey. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't really taste like a chili spice.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's more like a rye sort of a. That's the best thing I can think of to describe it. A sort of a rye spice.
Keep drinking it.
I find that I want to keep drinking it.
There's a kind of a kiss of licorice on the back end of that too.
And although I'm not a fan of licorice, it doesn't bother me at all. It's like perfectly balanced with the other flavors. All right, Adam, that's good. Oh, you've already poured.
Maybe that has like a bourbon barrel aged thing going on, and that's what the spice we're getting from.
Is that what I'm picking up?
Maybe
that kind of rye spice.
Because it really has a tart, like oaky flavor to the end too.
It really does. All right, so our final stout, and again, by holding this to only 6, not only does it ensure we can probably get home all right, but it also gives us an opportunity to do this again, because there's plenty of great stouts out there. All right, final stout of the day.
This one's more coffee forward.
Yeah, very different on the nose, more coffee forward. Oh boy.
A little more bubbles. It's got a. It looks a little thinner in the glass than the last one.
It's so tasty, though. It's more thirst quenching than the others that we've had.
It's a bigger mouthfeel than it looks like. It looks thinner in the glass, but it's a bigger mouthfeel.
More carbonated than some.
But they're small bubbles.
Yes, they are, and it's very refreshing.
It's still CO2 bubbles, but they're small bubbles. It's it's got a crisp kind of bitterness to the finish.
All right, I like it, but I'm going to tell you, number one is impossible to beat in this case for me. Number one was just too good.
I'm going with
That
you
was
on
just
that.
too good.
And it
I
might
do
be
like
that we
this
just tried those in the wrong order too.
Right. It could be if we tried this one first and then the one that was number one, it would have been a different story.
All right.
Oh,
I'm ready for the reveal.
Tough. All right, reveal time, Adam. This is number one. All right. It's Gigantic Brewing Company's most premium Russian Imperial Stout. And look, in 2021 rye barrels.
Rye barrels.
How about that?
Nailed that.
Wow. But that's where that spiciness came from.
Yeah, right. You said it.
Because like you said, it wasn't a pepper spiciness. It was more of a rye spiciness. So that was our number one.
We aged most
of
premium
this one, too.
Russian Imperial Stout and variety barrel Scotch rye rum and port. The sticker on the crown identifies which barrel this beer was aged in. So this was the
right. So
rye
this is,
whiskey
and
barrel.
we've actually had the one that was aged in Scotch barrels. We've had on the show before, and
okay.
it was quite good too. But this one is spicier.
Yes.
Because of the rye. Interesting. All right, Adam, our final stout is, you mentioned these guys earlier.
Hold the
The brewery, Hold the Spoon. It's the Black Chocolate Cake Imperial Milk Stout with cacao nibs, cocoa powder, salt, and vanilla. And
that
it's
salt's what's giving it that crisp bitterness.
8.5%. Yeah. Hold the spoon. I like that. So dark chocolate cake is what it's designed to be. And now, of course, I'm picking up those flavors in it. Isn't it funny how suggestible the palate can be? You know?
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons when you go to an expensive restaurant and you read the menu, it's one of the reasons they're so colorful and descriptive.
Yes.
Yeah, because they're preparing your palate to look for these flavors in a particular dish that they've made. And it's kind of the same way in this. Like, I enjoyed this beer. I very much liked the taste, but I didn't pick up on this whole dark chocolate cake thing. But now I totally taste that. It's just the power of suggestion, I guess. You know what I mean?
Well, think about how shocking it can be when you pick up a drink and you're expecting, say, Coca-Cola and it's Sprite.
Right.
And it's not that it's bad, but, man, that's shocking and crazy,
Right. It's a completely different thing than your palate was prepared for. So, wow. Well, first of all, I will say there has not been anything less than delicious in the 6 stouts that we've tried today. They've all been spectacular.
So I picked, starting from segment A, I picked 1. Segment B, I picked 2. Segment C, I picked 3. And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to put
you
these.
Picked 3? And which did you pick in segment 3?
I'm sorry, I picked 1 again.
Okay.
And I'm going to take these 3, segment 1, segment 2, and segment A, segment B, and segment C winners, and I'm going to taste those and pick my favorite out of the 3.
I'm going to need a little of the Matryoshka in order to do that because I think I finished that one. So can I grab a cup from you, Adam? So you're going to face your favorite 3 off, right?
So good. Cherry
Thank
bomb.
you. You're going to face your favorite 3 off and then decide, or you're going to... Well, but is that going to be your favorite 3? Because it could be one of the ones that didn't come in number 1. Could also make your list, you know? Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to figure this out.
Well,
we're going to take a break.
I'm picking my favorite out of the 3 segments.
Yeah.
And then I'm going and I'm putting those up against each other.
Are any of the ones that place second in your segments worthy of your final list? Or did you like your
all
top
these beers
ones
were
the best?
Great.
Yeah.
Like, I have to tell you, all of them are great. My least favorite was probably the Matryoshka. It's too hoppy.
Which was my favorite of that segment.
It's too hoppy.
All right. So, all right, we're going to figure this out. We'll be back. Ian and I will have our favorite 3 of the entire show in our blind stout taste test. And we'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting.
The producer's like, I'm really confused now. I am too. Yeah.
Welcome back and hold the spoon. You are checking out Smoking and Toasting. It's the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Our Stout Blind Taste Test today on show number 244, and we are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com because...
Cigars.
Yes,
I have
check
a
them
question
out.
for you.
Yes.
What is the process
that
your brain goes through when you look at a condom and you think, man, I could put that over my head, it would be so hot?
These are among the many things. I mean, call me unadventurous, but I just don't understand. I don't know how you get there. Like one day you're, just like, I don't know, looking through girly magazines or whatever, and the next you're pulling a condom over your head. I don't understand. With laughing gas in it.
Yeah, of course. You know what would make this better?
Yeah.
I just so happen to have this canister of what is amyl nitrate or whatever it's called.
I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we bring you drinking news. Because if we didn't, you might never know that people... And let me just say, as David Letterman was so skilled at saying on his show over the years, ladies and gentlemen, do not try this at home.
All right, stop for a second, because I want to point something out. Like you've seen on the late night shows and other things where the guy takes a rubber glove.
Oh, sure. Howie Mandel used to do that.
And
Used to put the rubber glove on his head
and then inflates
blow it
it,
up.
right?
Yeah.
Okay,
but that's a rubber glove. It's designed to go around your wrist.
I can't get a freaking rubber glove on my hand. I have somewhat abnormally large hands, but I can't get the damn things on my hand without ripping.
Yeah.
Right? a condom, the aperture is not even the same size as a rubber glove.
This is the whole point of like why this is such an absurd story. If it said he had a garbage bag over his head, you wouldn't have thought twice about it.
Right.
But it was a condom.
And a garbage bag full of laughing gas would at least be hilarious.
Right. But at some point, this man reached the point in his life that in order to achieve gratification,
what is happening?
he needed to find a condom and place it over his head, filled with laughing gas.
That's undignified.
Yeah.
I mean, naked.
It's not a way you want to be found by the paramedics.
Naked
That's
with
for
a
sure.
condom over your head.
Base, we have a nude male, looks to be about 38 years old, with a condom on his head. I'm just saying. That's
a bad way to die. That's like the guy who put a bunch of balloons on a chair.
Yes.
That's like that. You remember the Darwin Awards?
Yes.
That's
I
right
love
there.
the Darwin Awards. By the way, there's a great little book of like single panel cartoons. I actually own this. It's somewhere in my boxes of books, but do check it out. It's called Unpleasant Ways to Die. And it's similar to what you're talking about.
I have a great coffee table book that's just called Things That Might Kill You.
Oh, I
and it's
love
like
this.
the worst case scenario of everything.
Oh, I love this.
I've got
seen
a
this.
bump on my arm. Well, it could be, and it's like the worst case scenario.
I
of everything.
love it. I love it. All right, Ian. Let's get to it. We have forestalled long enough. Favorite 3 stouts of the 6 we've tried today.
Man,
I know you're putting them back to back here. First, let me just say there wasn't anything we
they're
had
all
today
great.
that I would not buy again.
They're all great.
They're all
They're great.
fantastic.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you, my least favorite is the Matryoshka.
Now that was the second beer
That was
in the
second
first
beer segment A, okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because it's very hoppy. Now, some people might love that hops.
There might be some people that like that.
And they might really just love that hops in a stout, and those people are wrong. But no, I'm just teasing.
I love how inclusive you are.
Everyone has their own taste. That one
Right.
to me, I'm not a big fan of the big hops in there. Now that being said, if you serve that to me, that's a very drinkable beer.
Right. You're not if you come over the house and I pour this for you, you're going to enjoy it. You're not.
This is like your least favorite money. Like, it's all good. Right? Like, I'm not turning it down.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
But I'd rather have quarters than pennies, you know?
It's like your least favorite episode of Friends. They're all funny.
Right,
you
right.
know? Yeah.
So the bottom line is, all these beers are so good. So I'm not hating on that beer. It's a great beer.
Oh.
But I will tell you, out of all 6, my number 1, 100% is that Smog City.
Okay, so Smog City's your number 1. What's your number 2?
My number 2 out of everything is going to be the Gigantic.
The barrel, the
rye
rye
barrel.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the Gigantic
All
is fantastic. I just tasted all these. And then number 3 is definitely the Cherry Bomb from Prairie,
from Prairie
Artisan, which is
Artisan Ales.
also
All right.
quite good. And I got to tell you, number 2 and 3 were neck and neck.
Interesting.
So good. But I like the
But the
spicy.
standout for you was the Smog City.
Standout for me was Smog City. This Infinite Wishes is unbelievably good.
All right, so I'm going to go mine in 3, 2, 1. My number 3 was the one beer you were actually a little negative about, was the Matryoshka.
Okay.
This was from Fort George. It was a little hoppier. It was 12.8%. I thought it was wonderfully boozy, and to me, the hops just blended perfectly with everything. They didn't like stand out and detract from the stouty things that were going on in the beer.
Gotcha.
So I liked it a lot. I thought it was my number 3. My number 2 was your Smog City, the one you picked as number
Smog
1.
City's so good.
It was a really delicious beer. Infinite Wish is the name. And we've had another Smog City beer on the show before. It was also a stout, as I recall, and I believe we went pretty crazy over it as well. Number 1 for me was the Gigantic. The one that was aged in the rye barrels. To me, that was just like, wow. If you want to put everything that is great about a stout into one beer, it would be that.
I want to give
But I'll tell you, I'll buy more of this Buried Hatchet on the way home. I mean, it's just,
I want to
everything we had was so good.
An honorable mention to Buried Hatchet, because Buried Hatchet, out of everything here, Buried Hatchet is the one beer that is not seasonal, not special release, not anything.
Right. This
It
is not a limited release
available
bomber.
at all times
Right. Yep.
in the Houston and Texas area. It is available at all times as what it is, and it stands up to every one of these.
All right, so we got to make it our mission to get the Southern Star Boys on the show, because that really is
We do.
a wonderful, wonderful beer. And to be known, like to be a brewery and to be known, and they are also known for their Bombshell Blonde.
Bombshell Blonde's a great
Yes,
beer.
but to be known as widely as they are for their stout, I mean, that's pretty impressive, you know? So many breweries are known for their IPA, or they're known for their great blonde ale, or, you know what I mean? But these guys, the Buried Hatchet, you find people are reverent about it.
I bet. We're putting up so many beers that are these super special releases, that they're doing all these special things. And then we put
something you can buy every day,
right off the shelf
and
every
in the
day,
convenience
Buried
stores
Hatchet
in a lot of
standing up.
cases.
And I'm willing to bet they make a barrel-aged version of that.
Well, what is
they make a barrel-aged version of that. It's called Black Crack.
I was going to say, what's Black
and
Crack,
I bet
right?
Black Crack would have been even almost even more fun in this case.
Yeah, it probably would have.
But
I wish
I'm
I'd had my
super
hands
proud
on
of
some.
I'm super proud of them boys, because that's a great beer.
Well, what a fun show this was. Not only did we have some excellent rum, but we had really 6 very, very good. Like, in almost all the blind taste tests we've done, there's been 1 or 2 that were a dud. In this case, there were no duds.
Bruce Stark brings up a logistics question.
Yes?
How did he keep the laughing gas in the condom?
I have no idea. I don't know how any of this happened. And even beyond that, I don't know how he found it arousing, you know? I don't know. I'm completely befuddled by this entire story, which was why I chose to share it with you on Drinking News, because I thought this is one of the strangest things I've ever heard
Maybe
about.
you heard a story about someone doing this.
Maybe you heard it on Drinking News on some other show. I don't know. But again, this takes me back to my favorite David Letterman saying, ladies and gentlemen, do not try this at home.
Do not try this at home.
Let me just emphasize that once again. Ian, I hate that we missed out on Trey Boring, but this turned into a very fun show. I loved all the stouts, and I know you did, because I know this is close to your heart, this style of brewing. So I want to say thanks to Adam, our producer, for pouring these and for doing a really good job of matching them up against each other.
Yes.
Which he had to do before
awesome.
he'd even tasted them. So that was really well done. And I want
as
to
a
say,
parting statement, I just want to say there will be no stout left behind. No stout will be without meeting its stout destiny by the end of today.
that sounds like a perfect idea. I know I have some people waiting outside the door to taste these stouts as well, so they're just waiting for us to end the show. Come on. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this program. Next week, a debate which has been raging between my partner on the show and myself for a long time.
Martinis or kangaroo boxing?
Martinis or vodka martinis. We will bring it to an end next week. I'm not saying he and I are going to agree. In fact, I fully don't expect it. But we'll have a hell of a lot of fun trying to contrast and compare. And we'll be joined by our very good friend, Chris Morris, who is always a joy to have on the show.
Oh, he's a blast.
And is our cocktail
We've
expert.
gotten a lot of Chris Morris this year.
We have.
This is the 3rd time he'll be on the show in
And,
1 year.
you know, I think the show is better for it.
That's right.
Last year, the guy we had on 3 times was Alan Denning. So,
Egad.
thank you for joining us for Smoking and Toasting. Please come back here again for show number 245, the Great Smoking and Toasting Martini Challenge. Have a great week, my friend, and I salute you with stout and rum. And cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all. That was a good show. I was trying to fit it in at some point on the show.